So tonight, finally, we got the highly anticipated season finale for Rebels Season 2, and it was amazing. Let me just say right off the bat, before we even get started with the top 5 shocking moments in the review, I would like to say that this is possibly the best Rebels or TCW episode we have ever gotten. There were a lot of twists and turns in the episode that I didn't see coming. A lot that I did see coming, you can see that in my predictions video that I actually did yesterday. But a lot actually came out of nowhere that really shocked me. And I feel like this episode was overall great. I feel like the voice acting was great. And a ton of moments I had no idea were coming, honestly. So again, this week for our top 5 shocking moments and review, I am joined yet again by Anthony, if you want to say hello.
What's up, guys?
So we will go ahead and talk about the top 5 shocking moments right now, and we'll kind of give our thoughts along with the episode as we go through each of our moments. So for number 5, we have that Maul is no longer a Sith, or no longer considers himself a Sith, and that he has been hunted by the Inquisitors by seemingly years now. We know that Maul, based on how he kind of talks during the episode, that he has had some run-ins with some Inquisitors, and I'd really like to see that in future expanded universe works, but I think that that's a really cool moment, and you can kind of throw in here the reveal of Maul. It's awesome because he's in the shadows, and he's really looking quite old, not the Maul that we're used to, but of course he does eventually reveal himself to be his good, old, powerful self. As we saw, he was extremely powerful. What did you think of Maul's reveal and the fact that he no longer really considers himself a Sith?
Well, I really loved every bit of Maul in this episode, just from how he looks and how old and beaten up he is. The sound of his voice, he sounded so weak in the beginning and then slowly built up his strength. But I gotta say, it was such a great return for his character, and of course he's not a Sith anymore. He explains in the episode to Ezra that, like him, that the Sith has taken a lot of stuff from him, his family. They took his identity and they just made him this evil person and never got the life he wanted. And when he was talking to Ezra about this, the dialogue in this episode was so good. It made you feel so bad for this man who has just been this evil Sith for so long, and then he eventually comes back and he's like, oh, well, I'm evil, so that's what's up.
Yeah, that's kind of how it goes. He is still very much evil, but I think it's very interesting that he doesn't consider himself a Sith, and that he's going after the Sith, which I think in Season 3, like we predicted, it's going to put him and the Rebels in a situation where they're going to have to work together, potentially, I see. Even though, and we'll get into this later, Maul blinded Kanan, but yeah, I mean, really interesting stuff. And for the number 4 shocking moment, it's another moment involving Maul. You'll see that that's kind of a continuing theme with this list, but that he killed seemingly 2 of the 3 Inquisitors. The last one is kind of up in the air, the 4th new one that we got introduced to, but personally, and we'll get into this, I do think that that 4th Inquisitor survived, but he killed the 7th sister and the 5th brother. It looked like he almost cut the 7th sister in half from like her upper torso up. It looks like he almost cut her in half. He threw his dual-bladed lightsaber at her, and then he just kind of slashed the 5th brother across the chest, and the other Inquisitor, the new one, kind of fell off the temple, but I think that he'll come back later on. But yeah, the deaths of the 2 major Inquisitors throughout the season, that was a shock, honestly, and you actually called this.
Yeah. I seem to remember somebody telling me that it was a bold statement that there weren't going to be many Inquisitor deaths. But, yeah, I was really excited to see him do it. You think that Darth Maul would have more sympathy for cutting people in half, like kind of how it looks like he did. But it was really just...
He didn't cut her in half at, like, the waist. He cut her in half from the upper body up. Like,
yeah.
Her face is cut in half now. She's wrecked.
But it was great to see him dueling again. That moment, too, right before he fought the Inquisitors and he pulls out the dual-bladed lightsaber that we've been waiting so long to see again, was just great. And he really did some damage. Like you said, I don't think that the new Inquisitor is dead, because if you don't really show somebody's death on screen, it means they're not really dead.
Yeah, Maul is a perfect example of that, too.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I think I liked it. I like to see him actually using his staff as a weapon as well. If you looked, he actually hit the 7th sister on the head with it, while he was dueling with the other 2. And he went 1 against 3 for a time against these Inquisitors. Maul's skill as a duelist, man, he's great. I would love to see Obi-Wan Kenobi, the TCW Obi-Wan Kenobi, fight this version of Maul and see how they would fare. Physically, he doesn't look as strong as he was. Obviously, he's much more lean, but as a duelist, really strong. And I think that was a great thing. What did you think?
It was cool to see that he hadn't really lost any of his ability as a duelist, because when, like I said, in the beginning of the episode, he seems so weak and fragile, but he's just really putting on a show. And later you do see his strength coming through. And when he's fighting with that lightsaber, like you said, he took on 3 at a time. And both of them, or all 3 of those Inquisitors have 2 blades, so it's 1 man against 6 lightsaber blades, and he held his ground pretty good.
Yeah, it was great. It was great to see that. He's still fast-paced, and I cannot wait, since he did survive, to see more of Maul from Season 3. So number 3 is actually a moment that takes place a little on during the later half of the episode. It's almost during the end, but it's that Ahsoka actually successfully lands a hit on Vader and breaks part of his mask off. And it's cool to see that we get to see kind of Anakin Skywalker underneath, although he's still obviously burned. And you can almost hear for a second Anakin's voice talking to Ahsoka, and Ahsoka says that she's not going to leave him, and we'll get into this later, but we just mainly want to focus right now on the fact that his mask was broken off. And I think it's a really, really astounding feat that Ahsoka was able to do that, because to land a hit on Vader, a successful hit, is no small thing at all. What did you think of that moment?
Yeah, and when you think of Ahsoka landing a hit on Darth Vader, especially on the face, like, as bad as she did, you think back to the Bespin duel when Luke was just able to get a hit on his shoulder a little bit. Not very... so it's more impressive to see Ahsoka do this, because she's nowhere near Luke's ability, and it was really cool, because we've gotten to see a lot of art of Darth Vader with a broken mask. We saw a lot of it in The Force Awakens, or not The Force Awakens, The Force Unleashed. But to see kind of like that younger Anakin that's pretty close to the time he got wounded, very new to the suit, it was really cool to see his face with the Sith eye peering through, the big cut right down like the center of the mask. It was really awesome.
Yeah, it's actually common for him to have more of that orange skin while in the suit, and it kind of actually changed in Return of the Jedi when he took it off. Of course, he was getting older and stuff, and he had turned back to the light side. So that's actually what he looks like all of the time underneath the suit. But that Sith eye was great, and actually you made the statement that you think that for Luke to do it was really impressive. I would actually say that Ahsoka now is a better duelist than Luke was at the time of Bespin. Far better, actually. But not the time of Return of the Jedi. They're actually really equal. But yeah, still impressive for both of them to do it. Ahsoka, this is really her big episode, especially in the latter half, especially when she says, "I am no Jedi" to Vader. And overall, I think the moment where she lands a hit on Vader is really great, and their duel was great. They're very accurate to the way Vader dueled, which I really appreciate again. But yeah, landing that hit was great. There's going to be a lot of images on the internet with Vader having half of his mask cut off, and it's really hearkening back to a lot of EU material, like you said, where they do that sometimes. So overall, really great. Now, number 2 is a moment for me that totally came out of left field, and that is that Maul blinded Kanan with his lightsaber, and we touched on this briefly earlier, but wow, I did not see that coming at all. And he picks up the old temple guard mask and he puts it on, and he uses the Force, and he's listening to Maul's footsteps, and he actually is able to beat Maul very briefly and push him off the temple. And that was just great, really shocking. A lot of people are going to be drawing parallels between now Kanan and Ram Koda from, again, The Force Unleashed, which this is another example of them taking a lot of EU stuff and moving it over. And then Sam Witwer, of course, actually voiced Darth Maul in this episode and also in TCW, and for those of you that don't know, he is actually Starkiller from The Force Unleashed. So a lot of stuff it appears as if they've pulled it from that now, and I think that that's a good choice. Also, I think this is going to go well into Season 3, because if you remember, in the Clone Wars, they actually changed a lot of character designs from Season 3, or moving into Season 3, and I think they're going to do that here as well. At least I hope so, because we've had 2 seasons now with the same outfits, and I think they're going to go change them up, because the impact that this episode has is absolutely gigantic overall on Rebels. What did you think of the fact that Kanan is now blind, essentially?
Well, I drew all the same comparisons about Ram Koda when it happened. It was shocking, and Darth Maul totally took a cheap shot and said that Ezra was going to be his apprentice instead of Kanan's. And it was really great to see Kanan kind of use the Force when he was blind, kind of pull those daredevil moves without being able to see, but just listening to his surroundings and trusting in the Force, and then being able to knock Darth Maul off the Sith temple, it was really cool to see, and I really like the way they connected to the EU and how they take a lot of material from it, because a lot of people were very sad that they got rid of the EU when they did this whole Disney deal, and it's good to see that they're making an effort to kind of bring some of those elements back.
Yeah, I can't wait to see now this blind Kanan and the new outfit, hopefully, that they give him. Again, this is just speculation, but I would assume that all of our characters will be getting redesigns. At least I hope so. And this is going to be great too, because we saw he's capable of dueling without being able to see, which Ramkota was able to do in The Force Unleashed, which is awesome. I think that that adds a lot to the character. Again, also in that moment, something really cool that you pointed out, it was actually that Darth Maul screamed that he's now my apprentice, or my apprentice, something to that effect. And that was a really cool moment too, because now you see, as we saw earlier, it was not Darth Maul's intentions at all to kill Ezra. In fact, he's looking for that apprentice, someone to help him out. And I think that Ezra will be a little more weary of Maul next season. In fact, I'm certain of it. But I still think that he has a chance to kind of manipulate him and turn him to the dark side to some degree, to some extent, because we saw a lot of dark with Ezra, especially with that last shot when he opens up the Sith holocron. We see Ezra is still down that dark path, and I think that Maul is still the perfect one to lead him down that path.
Well, I thought that Maul was going to be the one to lead him down that path, but I believe he's still going to go down on this path, but I don't know if it's going to be Darth Maul that leads him. I'm glad that they didn't kill Darth Maul. I want to see him continue. This is a perfect way to expand on his character, but I'm not sure if he's going to be the one to do it, because it's like you said, I think that Ezra is going to be a lot more apprehensive about him now, and especially with Kanan's guidance still. I mean, imagine that dynamic of Darth Maul trying to get to Ezra and Kanan being like, "You mean the man that blinded me?"
Yeah, we saw a little bit of that in this episode, of course, without the blind stuff, but it was where Kanan kind of pushed Darth Maul aside, and he was like, we're kind of what was it, like a package deal or something to that effect, and they actually went up together, Master and Apprentice, and it kind of showed that Kanan was like, no, I'm Ezra's master, and you are just this newcomer that we don't trust fully. Overall, great moment. I like the fact that they blinded Kanan, and I hope that they kind of go into that a little bit more in season 3 and how he deals with it and uses the Force to augment now how he fights. So now here we go. The number one moment is the death of Ahsoka. Now at first when they started playing it, I wasn't sure if Ahsoka had died or not, but I think by the end it's pretty clear. What did you kind of interpret from the ending?
Yeah, there's no way she made it out of there. If she was still alive, I don't think Darth Vader would have left.
Not only did he leave, but he left alone, and he even told Ahsoka that she was going to die if she stayed, and Ahsoka chose to stay. Now, I will see this, and this is a little bit of a nitpick for me, but the way they handled Ahsoka's death was a little bit unsatisfying for me. I realize it's a kid's show, and they can't show gruesome deaths, especially with beloved characters, which Ahsoka is, and I think that they did do it successfully enough to nail it home that she did in fact die. I just would honestly have rather seen her death on screen. We've seen characters in the past die on screen. Han Solo died, Qui-Gon Jinn has died, and Obi-Wan died even in A New Hope. These are all beloved characters that we saw be cut down by other characters, and I realize, like I said, it's a kid's show, there's kids watching, but at the same time in TCW and even in Rebels in the past, we've seen people be cut down before, and I kind of would have liked to see it. Again, it is a heroic death, and it's established that it is a heroic death, but I would have liked to see it actually happen and see the rest of the duel, although it is kind of implied that after they leave, she was killed pretty quickly. What are your overall thoughts on it?
Well, I thought that the way they ended it was pretty fine. I understand the whole thing about, what is and what isn't appropriate on what to put, especially when it's on Disney Channel. And I think that for the most part kids would be able to handle it, but the way they killed her, I think it's like you said, it's supposed to be a heroic death. They wanted to show the last shot of Ahsoka was her running to Vader and really standing her ground, protecting her friends, and they didn't want to have a moment of humility where she lost the battle. And I think that by not showing the actual kill, I think that makes it more impactful, because it's like she went in there and she literally gave it all, especially for the people that she loved.
It's a great point. She said that she would stand by Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader, who was Anakin Skywalker, and he made it clear here, they're at very different stages than he was at Return of the Jedi, that she would die, and that's what ended up happening. But in a way, she almost sacrificed herself for the idea of Anakin Skywalker, for the idea that her master was not this evil presence that he had become, and that was really, really heartfelt and a satisfying overall goodbye for me for Ahsoka, and honestly, I almost teared up a little bit. It was a great moment that she chose to stand by her old master and believe in who he was and not who he had become as Darth Vader, and that she wanted to die with him, kind of in the way that she had in her mind of him as Anakin Skywalker, and not this great evil dictator who had assisted the Empire in killing so many people. She wanted to be there and even offer him a last chance to come with them and turn to the light side, just like Luke did. But Vader was at a completely different stage in Return of the Jedi than he is now, and he ultimately refused. And not only did he refuse her offer, but he struck her down as well.
Yeah, I really liked the line in this duel when Darth Vader said that Anakin was weak and wasn't around anymore, basically saying, like, I killed Anakin. And Ahsoka had that line when she was like, then I will avenge him. And I think that kind of speaks to her character and what she meant to do in the end of that episode. Was she wasn't fighting Darth Vader to be Darth Vader. She was fighting to avenge the master that she knew.
So there we have it, everyone. This is the Season 2 finale for Rebels. Of course, Season 2. I'm very excited about this and very sad at the same time. I'm very interested to hear how you guys think. I think that this episode will be universally loved. I have actually seen a few comments, however, that have said that they don't like it. They don't like the way Ahsoka's death was handled. So what do you guys think? Did you guys like this episode? Are you going to go rewatch it? I sure am. I'm going to go back, rewatch it. I'm very interested in learning more about this new Inquisitor that we got and looking at his fighting style just for really my own pleasure. And we may talk about it a little bit later, talk about his fighting style and the way he fights, because he's not dead. We still have Maul, who's in play. Vader's in play, Kanan's blind, and I think there's a lot of cool factors for Season 3. Overall, what are your kind of final thoughts on the episode?
I am so excited for where they ended this episode, and I can't wait to see where they bring it in Season 3. They literally left all the cards on the table for what they could do in the future. They have great villains that they've established that could return. They kind of left the the new Inquisitor's death kind of ambiguous, so we could potentially see what his deal is and maybe have a reveal. He might be somebody we actually already know. And just the path that they set these characters on, it's starting to look a lot like The Force Unleashed, which I was a huge fan of. And I can't wait to see how they develop these characters, because they have so many different ways they could take it, but it seems that they're going to take it where Kanan's this better, wiser master. I think he's going to be forced to become more wise. And then Ezra going on this dark path and Kanan trying to steer him the right way when Ezra's kind of fighting with him a little bit.
It's definitely going to be great. I cannot wait. Anyway, guys, leave your thoughts in the comments down below. How sad are you right now? How happy are you that Maul is back? They kind of supplemented that really well, the return of Darth Maul with the death of Ahsoka. That's done really well. Anyway, leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. May the Force be with you, and have a great day.